Okay, so my name's Paul Blackburn and I'm CCO here at ArcticZymes. I'm delighted to talk you through what we've been doing over the last couple of years in terms of building a scalable commercial engine. I think before I begin, I'd like to make a couple of points. One is, what we do is difficult. We are not simply providing units of enzymes and chasing revenue spikes. You know, what we're doing is also impactful. We are not selling enzymes to the mass markets, we're selling enzymes to regulated environments. And those environments expect a lot from their supplier. So we work really hard to make sure that we're building trust, we're building credibility, we are authentic with our customers, and we've built a team that is designed to do just that. So it's not just about putting more salespeople into a team. Absolutely not. What we've done is we've brought together a sales and marketing organization under one roof. And we've centered everything we do around what you might regard as the customer journey. Marketing isn't just an activity, creative function at ArcticZymes. As you saw from Steve's presentation, what marketing now does is it absolutely defines and drives the strategy. We've put in place product managers who own those portions of the portfolio, and they also own the market strategy that's associated with that. So, you know, it's not just putting sales out there and asking them to sell. It's about making sure that we are supporting every part of the customer decision-making process. In terms of enablement, we've worked really hard to make sure that we are positioning both marketing and sales with content that makes sense. And you'll have seen a lot of activity on social media with regards to ArcticZymes, and a lot of things that are relevant, not just to scientists, but to other stakeholders in our customer organizations. And we don't just think in terms of individual activities. Steve's team thinks in terms of campaigns. So we follow customers, and we make sure that we're engaging with them in the right way at the right time. And it's not just the commercial team that's been engaged in this transformation. It's a whole company endeavor. And we have internal KPIs that are set up to make sure that everybody has the customer at the heart of what they do. We've also made sure that, you know, we've got good ownership and good accountability for different parts of the commercial journey. So we're really clear on who needs to do what and when. And you know, rigor in sales and professional selling is incredibly important to me. You know, sales is absolutely not a hustle. The salespeople that we have and the marketing people that we have are absolutely accountable, and we're really clear with them on what is expected. I mention often how important forecasting and funnel is. And I'm really pleased to say that we've made massive strides, and I'm going to come back to this, in terms of the pipeline that we've built, the business that we're building for the future. The customer life cycle is really long, and the time to significant revenue is quite long. So we're making sure that we have a pipeline of opportunities at the heart of many of the discussions that we have. And this gives us improved revenue predictability and underlying quality. Of course, you know, Michael alluded to the fact that we've seen evidence from our commercial transformation. And, you know, some of that is shown here in the revenues for 2025. We're up by 8% year on year. Our bioproduction business grew by in the region of 23%, and molecular tools did show a decline of -5%. And if you've been watching the investor calls, you'll understand some of the structural reasons and why we have a healthier underlying business than those numbers suggest even. But if we look beneath those numbers at the quality signals, I'm delighted to remind you that we're actually engaged with, and we took orders from all top 10 CDMOs last year. That's significant. Not only that, we grew our revenue in the CDMO area by 53%. And it all starts small, and I'll come back to that in a second. But we actually conducted 89 evaluations where we got customer feedback from those evaluations last year. And, you know, some of this is, frankly, a numbers game. We don't know how many of these customers are going to be successful, but we know that some of them will be. And we know that the more validations we do, the more trials we do, may not drive the revenues, but it drives the future of ArcticZymes. And so we put a huge amount of focus on making sure that we're measuring this, we're controlling this. And, you know, one transformational thing that's happened at ArcticZymes is that we've built a credible opportunity pipeline of business. And this isn't revenue today, of course, but it gives us a structure to work to. It gives us something that we can talk about, we can discuss during our commercial calls. And we actually increased our opportunity number by around 150% last year. And actually the value of our funnel by about 300%. And what we're working on now is making sure we better define and better understand the quality of that funnel. And again, this isn't revenue, this isn't salespeople chasing numbers. This is a commercial team doing the right things for the future of the business, because this is what feeds the future revenue. We talk a lot about designing, and there is no shortcut in this difficult, regulated marketplace that we work in. And this isn't just for our advanced therapies. You know, this is for our whole business. Customers need to go through various stages when they're making their decision. Of course, it starts in a scientific way. And, you know, as I've said, we make sure we've got KPIs for the commercial team that encourage behaviors at the left-hand side here. You know, where they work hard with customers to make sure that we are technically excellent and we are able to make a difference to their workflow. We talked about it earlier. Some customers, most customers, want to sort of project ahead and understand, is this a supplier, is ArcticZymes the supplier that will be able to support us in the future? And you know, part of that is in terms of, can ArcticZymes scale with us? Yes, we can. Is ArcticZymes going to have the longevity? Are they going to be there in the future? Yes, we are. Has ArcticZymes got the quality that we need to allow us to actually take our kits to market, to gain the regulatory approvals, et cetera, et cetera? So again, ArcticZymes has always been a high-quality, highly regulated, highly auditable, if that's the right word, enzyme company. But what we do very early on is make sure that customers are really clear about that. You know, we make sure that we bring that to life for them as early as possible in a proactive way. And you know, the functions that we've put in place have been deliberately assigned to different parts of this customer journey. This design in is absolutely what it's all about. You know, we talk about winning early, and we talk about these these stages taking many, many years. We've a well-known CDMO partner in the US that we've been working with since a lunch and learn in 2017, for example. These things do take time. And as I mentioned in my earlier slide, the more evaluations that we do, and the more we work to help customers understand that we are the company that we are, with the sort of what you might call value beyond the product features, the better that will be. And this value beyond the product is something that is incredibly important. As Steve mentioned, we don't just sell enzymes. We allow customers access to our expertise, not just scientific expertise, our regulatory expertise, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, if we do all these things right, if we get everything lined up, the final stage, the commercialization, the lock-in, is just a natural step. One caveat to this is, of course, this can be disrupted, and we actually look to disrupt this where our competitors are built in naturally. But it is difficult, and customers always need a reason to make a change, to make a move. So, we focus on the left-hand side, and we highlight the value we've got beyond the product. We've got a really nice example of design in action here. So liquid biopsies are a potentially transformational way of detecting cancer. And it allows you to detect nucleic acid or other factors from a blood draw. So it's better suited to mass market screening rather than invasive biopsy tests. A company in the US chose our proteinase, so this is a nice molecular tools example, for their liquid biopsy kit. And they chose it, back in 2020, something like that. They started doing some initial experiments. They've just completed their clinical trials. They've audited us. We've been working really closely with them. And they have made some commercial moves recently, one with a major pharma company outside the US, and with another commercial partner within the US. So they're positioning themselves for launch. There's an FDA pre-market approval, PMA, due in the summer. And we're working with them to, and this is a customer-provided forecast. This isn't a promise, this isn't a guarantee, but this is a customer-provided forecast of how we might scale within their kits. So this has taken a long time. There's been lots of different parts of our company involved, but this is serious and this is impactful. And this is for colon cancer. There are many different liquid biopsy kits that this could potentially be applied to, either via this company or through others. And they chose our proteinase in the beginning because it was heat labile, because they could inactivate it with heat. And they also chose us because of the value that we showed them beyond the product in terms of regulatory and quality. Okay, so you might have noticed earlier this year we published a white paper, and again this addresses potentially less scientific or non-scientific stakeholders in an organization. So, the challenge a lot of our customers have, and we're going to hear this from Lee Davis, I'm sure, is that viral vector manufacturing is challenging. And, we've established a model that really demonstrates how we can address that challenge and how we can help our customers not just have a scientific impact, but a real operational impact, resulting in higher recovery, using less enzyme, which is important not just because they use less and they potentially save money, but because they don't have to worry as much about removing it afterwards, which is critical for these customers. And they can process their samples faster. So this is very real, but it's about the language that we use beyond enzyme units in reaction conditions. It's about making sure that we're talking about solving genuine problems that customers have, and therefore having a significant economic impact on their process and on their future. So, you could say we're selling, the sizzle, not the sausage. We're selling more than just an enzyme. We're giving customers the ability to speed up their process, to have higher yield, purity, and very importantly, save money and increase their margins. And we've got some very nice customer quotes. This isn't a pure model. This is something that's backed up by customer experience. And as was mentioned earlier, we're lucky to have an opinion leader in metagenomics here today. I'm just going to take a moment just to talk about how this started. Again, partly to give you a feel for the timescale and the efforts involved. Another key opinion leader, Justin O'Grady, you may have seen the interviews that we've done with him, approached us at a conference back in 2015 and asked, "Can you help me with a nuclease for my blood sample?" And we worked with him over those 4 years to establish a method which actually evolved into a respiratory detection method. And that method was published in a really, really important paper back in 2019. Now, this paper has been cited 645 times, which puts it in the top 1% of papers from that era. So this is a significant publication. Guy's, King's and St Thomas Hospital Trust have basically published another paper just in 2024, which brings this method to life. And what I mean by that is that they actually use this paper as a basis for a method that is now rolled out into 7 NHS sites today. There's another 7 that are literally going through the adoption process. And there's going to be at least 30 NHS sites that have this intensive care respiratory lavage metagenomics test in the very short term. So this is just one disease type. This is one group, and this is UK focused, but there is a lot of excitement and potential. It's underpinned by 3 different government-funded programs. So this is impactful and this is serious. And we're going to hear from Rafi about the work he's doing. We've also got a really nice quote from Catherine Fladderby in Oslo, who is using this for cerebral spinal fluid samples, where, again, it's been a transformational technique, and our enzymes have been pivotal to the success of that. So we're really, really excited about metagenomics. To Steve's point, though, it is early days, and we are well positioned, and it's still gaining traction.